Welcome to the Real Guy Podcast. I got crazy Captain Norm in the studio today.
We are here.
Norm's fired up.
I'm fired up, baby.
He needed a beer when he first got here, and he wanted
No. This is going to be a bit of a ham sandwich, but I'm going to roll with it. So, in 1977, Dad bought a 37 Hatteras from Hatteras of Lauderdale. And we took delivery on the boat, and we parked it on, I think it was D-Dock at Bahia Mar. And on one side of us was a 53 Hatteras named the Hooker.
Okay.
And on the other side of us was a 36 Hatteras named El Lobo. And the Hooker had a young captain named Skip Smith and his crazy freaking younger brother named Kunta.
Right.
Okay. So those were on one side of us, and the other side of us was Eddie Herbert, okay, who you need to get on the podcast.
Okay.
And Eddie Herbert is probably, in my opinion, Eddie's probably one of the top 3 billfish captains in the world. Okay.
I think most people would agree with you on that one. Eddie's phenomenal.
Eddie is amazing. Well, those guys, what they did early on in the years, I don't know if Skip told you about all of this, but those guys went to the schools
Seminar
when
types.
they were they went to the schools to get educated on how to take down engines and then build them back and everything else like that. So there are stories about Eddie and Skip working on charter boats from a dock, and something broke down. All right, let's tear the engine apart, but we got a trip the next day. Okay? And, I mean, they would do crazy stuff like that. And, they learned to be completely self-sufficient captains, is what I'm driving at. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the things that makes them great. And they may not tell you about it, but that's who they are. That's what they did.
Skip actually mentioned something that now that you've brought it out in the open, but hopefully I was hoping people would get. But Skip was saying that his job wasn't necessarily to do everything perfect all the time, mm-hmm. but his job was to make sure that boat could run every day.
Dude, let me tell you something. I had the fortune to work a short stint on the bootlegger in, I want to say, the summer of 1988 or 89 in St. Thomas. And Eddie was the captain. It was and the mate was Kunta. Okay? And it was the year that I turned 21 years old. Anyway, so the one thing I noticed about Eddie was that after each trip, he would run down in the engine room, and he would spend some time down there, looking at everything. And of course, I was dumb enough to just put all the gear up and then head straight to the bar, when what I should have done was followed Eddie into the engine room and see what the hell he was doing.
Right.
Okay. But long story short, these are what legends are made of. Okay. And these are old school guys that are cut from a different cloth than the new guys, where a lot of the new guys will just source everything out.
Right.
Okay. But guys like Skip, and I'll tell you a great story about Skip Smith. My best Skip Smith story, and that is, my father had a pretty good relationship with Skip, and Dad had built a 36-foot Carolina boat. He had it built by a fellow by the name of Tommy Doctry, Sportsman Boat Works. And it was the last boat that my father had built. And we took delivery of it, got it all set up, and we were supposed to fish the annual, the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, annual fishing day. Right. It's a big deal, okay? And everybody throws their boat in the deal, and they take a bunch of kids fishing, and it's a great event that happens every year. It still happens. So at any rate, Dad told me, he says, well, I'm not going to be able to make it. I've got work obligations, but I'm going to find you a couple of mates, and you're going to run the boat. Now, mind you, I just got my captain's license. I'm like 19 years old. All right, this is late 80s. Okay.
And the first day you got to run your dad's boat?
Well, that's a different story. But this is the first day I got to fish it.
Okay.
Okay. So I said, great. I said, so you want me to run the boat? He goes, yeah, don't worry about it. So I'm like, all right, fine. So the next day I start pulling the rods out of the house and everything. And the two mates walk around the back of the house. And the two mates are Skip Smith and Peter B. Wright.
Jeez.
Holy crap. Okay, and I'm like, are you serious? I turned around to Dad, and he's looking at me, he's smiling. I'm like, are you serious? You want me to run the boat for these guys? So I got on the boat, I put the rods on the boat. I said, guys, seriously, I mean, I'll scrub the deck, I'll set the baits, but you really want me to? And Peter Wright looks at me and goes, just get up in the tower and stay there.
All right. Let the show begin.
I think we could do it.
What is it with stickers?
Dude, people want to sport the piss out of their stickers.
They do.
Tackle shops are amazing.
Tackle shops are always good. They might have started the whole thing.
I got my dock boxes I'm totally sporting the piss out of my stickers on my dock box.
Dock box. Mitchell does
boats.
Mitchell does his garbage can. So, well, the good thing about the garbage can is that thing sits out in the middle of the street for 2 days a week.
By the way, it's his birthday today, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday to Mitchell. It's his birthday?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I've watched a lot of kids come to South Florida, and I was a little bit nervous when you were telling me you were bringing your kid down here because they come down here and they don't go in the right direction.
Well, let me tell you something. I thought, I was kind of concerned with it at the outset because just the culture shock. Right. Going from Oklahoma to Fort Lauderdale, okay? And the only thing that
should be a book.
Oh, jeez. So the only thing that I can tell you is his strength of character, because he's not only rolled with it well, but he's embraced it.
Right.
Okay. I mean, he's done a few. Let me not talk past the audience. The long story short is that when I brought him down here, he had no experience on boats whatsoever, and I started bringing him to work with me, getting him a little experience, learning the ropes, literally and figuratively, and he started getting a couple of jobs here and there. Just running with other guys as a deckhand. And then he got an incredible opportunity just recently, and he had his first day at work yesterday, and it was a killer. I mean, I'm just not. It's just an incredible day in every way, shape, or fashion that you can imagine. And he said to me last night, he says, "Dad," he says, "I got to be honest with you. I don't think a lot of people get to say this, but I can't wait to go to work tomorrow."
Booyah!
Booyah!
That's awesome.
Okay.
That's awesome.
I mean, how do you win?
Dude,
any better than that?
Well, obviously the kid had something going on between the years, because he gets down here, right? He doesn't say too much.
No, it's quiet. He's still quiet.
Right? Willing to take advantage of small opportunities, willing to compound on those opportunities, and then maybe the kid just got a break, but he made his own break.
Well,
he could have very easily been like, "Yeah, Dad, I don't want to go hang out on the boat.
I don't want to do that." Yeah.
No,
I could have. He
I want to watch TV.
He could have sold up.
I want to do video games.
Yeah.
I want to go get a end job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he didn't.
No. He definitely he grabbed it with both hands and hung on, and it's just I can't. I don't know. I couldn't be a prouder father.
Dude, it's gratifying.
Yeah.
And it's awesome news. And speaking of, this is like Father Week, kind of. You know who I got to take fishing the other day? Mm-hmm. Eric Leach.
No kid. Eric Leach. Mm-hmm. No kidding.
Yeah. So
how is he doing?
He's doing great, and I got to spend time with him and his son Mason.
Uh-huh.
And I want to say he's 13.
Right. Okay.
And so anyway, I reached out to Eric.
Right.
Because I finished up that Skip Smith podcast.
Ah.
You know? And I'm all excited about Skip's discussion with me, but Skip's a little too humble. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't get Skip to pound his own chest so the audience can understand what a huge figure he is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, for instance, I would say to him, I said to him, I says, well, you know, you're kind of like the first dude that did the mothership and traveled around the world. And you know what his response was?
What?
Well, not really. Zane Grey started.
Yeah.
I think he had a sailboat and a skiff behind him, so that was a mothership. But instead of taking any credit for being a pioneer in the industry, he wants to talk about Zane Grey. So, right, you know.
Yeah, but they're cut from the same cloth.
So I didn't fight it.
Yeah.
I didn't fight it. I let Skip sit in the same seat that you're sitting in there, and I just let him roll.
I was wondering why the seat felt so warm.
It felt better now since Skip's been.
Well, Busaka was in it before me.
But anyway, so I'm trying to get Skip to pound his own chest, and we have this hour-long conversation, and it's a great conversation, and all the real guys are going to like it. But some of the new people, like the Busakas of the world, that don't know about Skip Smith, didn't dream about being Skip Smith.
Right.
I needed him to tell me how great he was, and he wouldn't. So I called up Eric, and I says, "Can you help me out?" I says, "I need 2 or 3 minutes to somebody to explain what Skip Smith has meant to the industry, individual fishermen, and especially the world of billfish." And of course, Eric, Mr. Nice Guy, Mr. I support everybody. The next day, he was down sitting in the same seat that you're sitting in to give me a few minutes about Skip Smith. So it went pretty clean and pretty quick. So it's like, I don't know, 1:30 in the afternoon. And I says, "Eric, what are you doing later?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "What?" He goes, "Nothing." I says, "Let's go catch a fish." His first thing to me was, "Can I bring my son Mason?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Absolutely."
Yeah.
And I got to spend time with Eric and Mason this week. And I couldn't have planned that.
Yeah, that's great.
You know what I mean? So that whole father-son thing, and then getting to know people, and then also understanding that, you know, Eric wants his kid exposed to all the good stuff.
And you know what I did? After I listened to the George Copeland podcast, which I think was probably one of the best podcasts I've ever heard you do, just because it hit home with me, was I brought Brooks up to TNR Tackle, and we happened to walk in there, not planning on anything in particular, but we walked in there, and there's George.
Excellent.
Okay. And we sat there and shot the shit for, an hour or so, and of course I ended up ordering Brooks' first custom-built fishing rod.
Nice.
So that's going to be done soon here. And I let him pick out all the colors and everything, and I helped him out with all the...
So George actually gets a twofer.
Man, I mean, he's just such a gentleman, and he's always been a gentleman. He's one of the true, they say, you hear people talk about this guy or that guy, and they use superlatives, like he's one of the gentlemen of the sport, okay? Well, George Copeland definitely is.
Right.
Okay? I mean, he definitely is, and I've been knowing him my whole life, and he's just...
he's
a great guy.
Well, he's the real guy that we have all this content about. I mean, he is
right.
And the funniest thing is with George is when people hear him on the podcast, and I think he's only done 2 in his life. He did the one with Andy Mill and he did the one with me, but they're like dying.
Totally different though.
Totally different
podcast.
But what I'm saying is people are dying for that guy.
Well,
who's that guy? George is that guy.
I've said this
to come out and to be public and to get a little piece of him.
I have said this before on the podcast, and that is whenever I get fixated on somebody, whether it's a public figure, whether it's a sports figure or a political figure or somebody in the industry. I don't care much about actors, so that never happens with me. But I always want to get more information on them, and this I think you definitely got it right with this podcast, because not only did he give you a taste of who he is, but he reminded me, I should say, of what it was like to grow up in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, that's a big one. People
Okay, and it was a big one. And like with Skip Smith, I can't wait to hear the Skips. Did you get him to talk about Mexico in the 80s?
I didn't. We didn't get into like the craziness of it all, but we counted it as an era. The whole Fort Lauderdale Beach era, and what people how they acted and what they did in those days, and we compared it to the captains and crews of today. Well, I mean, just being exposed to two pros getting on the boat and being able to go to work. There's people who've been fishing their whole life that've never been and never had the situation where two pros are fishing with them for the day. You know what I mean? So just that whole aspect was phenomenal. And I just want and we'll put this episode out before Skips, but I just want the younger people like Busaka, John Monahan, Zach Routman, and all these kids, the new generation, I want them to know about Skip. I want them to appreciate Skip, and I want them to have the respect that guys like you and I have for Skip, because he ain't getting any younger.
Nobody is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Skip said it when he came in here, and one of the reasons that he thinks these podcasts are cool is because he thinks about it like his book.
Oh, what a great book that is, too.
Right. But he thinks about it like that. He says it's documentation of the things that happened in the progression of sport fishing. He says that if it didn't get on record in these different ways, he goes, it would never.
I actually, Smith Merritt Insurance is located at Merritt's Boatyard, and I went up there and bought a book directly from Skip, and I had him sign it for my father, and I gave it to him as a I don't remember if it was a birthday or a Father's Day gift.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something that you'll appreciate, and how Skip got in that seat that you're sitting in. I don't know. There was some sort of book swap, Skip and Cantner. So Cantner was talking to Skip, and they were doing, I don't know, one of them needed a book from the other. Cantner starts talking about the podcast and said, and Skip actually was familiar with the podcast.
Right.
I mean, I'd like to have Cantner and Smith that listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought it was cool because of the way the Real Guy Network works. Cantner explained to Smith that he should get on the podcast. Smith then picks up the phone and calls me. Why?
Cool.
Because he has so much respect for Cantner.
Yeah.
That he's like, anything Cantner says, then I will do.
I may as well do. Yeah.
My phone rings, and it's like, it's Skip Smith, and I'm like, hey, Skip, man, good to hear from you. And he's like, the reason I'm calling is Cantner told me to call.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's great. I'd love to have you on the podcast. And 2 days later, he sits in that chair, and he gives me an hour and a half of his time.
Wow.
You talk about the power of the Real Guy Network.
Oh, yeah. Hey, there it is, right there.
Well, and it goes on, and it happens every single week.
Yeah.
But getting back to stickers.
Stickers?
Yeah. Once a week, once a month, whatever it may be, somebody will take a picture of my sticker.
On somebody else's truck.
Or place.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. That's been going on a while.
It has been going on a while. Yeah. But it makes me feel good every time it happens. Drew was in Tropic Star this week, and he took a picture of the sticker that's sitting out on the dock. And he's like, RTD and Tropic Star.
Really?
Yeah. It was,
Who was it?
Drew.
No, but I mean, you mean the sticker was down there?
The sticker was already there. Drew was there.
Who had the sticker?
I'm not sure. Somebody put it up, on the dock at Tropic Star, where they.
They had the certified dock box or something.
Well, there's tons of stickers, and there's the RTD sticker, and then Drew's there getting his black marlin. Got to congratulate Drew for getting his marlin.
I saw that. That was cool.
But anyway, he took a picture of the RTD sticker. The RTD.
He had a hell of a trip.
He did have a hell of a trip. Homeboy got his black marlin. So he calls me and he tells me, he's like, he says, we go out to Tropic Star and everything, and the travel was cool, and I was kind of into it. He goes, and then we started fishing, and it was a little slow for a while. He says, so we spent like a day out there just trolling around. He says, nothing really happened. He says, I started to think that, this is, he says, well, it's not like much different than Fort Lauderdale when you get off the shore and you can't see the land and you're just trolling around.
No shit.
And some hours went by, which was the best.
Really?
Which he didn't know it at the time, but it was the best thing that could have happened. So some hours went by, and they had to put in some time. They had to put in some hard work, and then he shows up, and Drew's up on the bridge, and he gets to watch the marlin come in after the bonita.
Oh,
and he
yeah.
sees it light up, and he sees it take the bait, and then he hops off the bridge to get the rod and then he says, Jeff, he says, after all that time and all that money and all that traveling, he says, I got to see it.
Yeah.
And I said, Drew, that's what I've been wanting you to see.
Yeah.
He says, I'll do that trip over and over again.
Yeah.
He says he's never had an adrenaline rush like it, and it couldn't have happened to somebody. It wasn't anybody that I know that was more due for it to happen to than it was Drew.
It is that experience. It's that particular experience that is what brings people to spend literally fortunes.
Fortunes and lifetimes.
Fortunes and lifetimes searching the world for that experience.
No, that high.
Okay, that high, that adrenaline rush, that whatever it is nothing else like it that exists anywhere. Okay? And it's that experience that makes the whole thing worthwhile. All the money, the travel, the expense, the boats, the heartache, the drama, the bullshit that goes with it all vanishes when you see that bill come up and that tail, which looks like it's 1,000 miles from the bill.
Well, I mean, we've said it for years on YouTube. Always said it. Never, never underestimate the power of a big fish.
Yeah. Let me tell you what, the last...
that goes a lot of different directions, mentally, physically, everything. Never underestimate the power of a big fish.
No, and I mean, whether it's a sailfish or a white marlin or a blue marlin, it's all the same experience. It's exactly the same.
It's the ultimate natural high.
Yep. No doubt about it.
All right, so what would be a more natural high? Seeing the billfish come up, or having that one day in your life where you could body slam somebody like Andre the Giant? I mean, you tried...
The billfish, and I'll tell you why.
Right.
Because body slamming Andre the Giant is going to be a one-time shot. You're never going to do it again in your life. Okay? Right. The billfish, that's something you can strive to do for the rest of your life until you can barely walk and see past the transom.
Right.
Okay? And I know guys that sat in wheelchairs in the back of boats.
All right, to make it happen.
To make it happen.
To get that high.
Okay? Tread Barta was one of them.
Tread.
Okay?
Tread let everybody know it. He's freaking...
No, Tread was Tread.
Yeah, he spazzed. He was like the first person that would spaz, and everybody just like that. Like, okay.
Hello, young man. What are you going to do with those belly?
It's okay if Tread...
What are you going to do with those
It's okay if Tread spazzes because Tread's Tread. Anyway. Now, good shit. But now this week was a crazy week. So at the beginning of the week, I'm figuring I'd be lucky to make a couple phone calls.
Yeah.
I'm booked every single day. One guy.
Yeah.
And Sunday night, before we started my week, and I was geared up to fish all week, the guy calls me and he's got a bad flu. And he texts me, he says, Jeff, he says, I can't make it tomorrow.
Yeah.
He says, we'll get you paid. He said, but I'm going to have to reschedule.
Whoa, stop. He paid you even though he didn't take the trips?
Right. Paid me in full.
That's class.
It's class. He understood, the situation that we were both in. And obviously, it meant a lot to him to be like, yeah, you got to get the guy paid for the week.
It means a lot to me to know that guys like that are still around.
There's still some. I mean, I got to say, my clientele list I got some of the most quality people on that list.
Wow. That's
but
great.
Anyway, he paid me for the week. And it's Monday, and I got nothing to do. Right? I mean, I'm all prepped up to fish. My tackle, everything mechanically. I'm ready to go. So Monday comes and I'm not fishing, and I'm like, I got nothing to do. So what do? Is I have you see all my pads over here. I got one pad over here that has all the people that I should call.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got on the horn and I started calling people. And what I was calling him about was doing interviews. So, hey, you're available to do an interview this week and, work on the Real Guy podcast. Now, Skip ended up calling me, so that was a bonus.
That's a bonus. That's a huge bonus.
So I got Skip done this week. Mm-hmm. I got Zach Routman done.
That was a good one.
Right?
I listened to that
Not
one.
Nancy, beating up on Nancy Gassman.
Yeah, Nat Nancy.
People gotta, people gotta know that, you're in that type of situation.
I know how to get rid of Nancy.
So I got Zach Routman done, and we had a podcast that I wanted to upload that immediately because it was just
that was a good one.
Yeah, it was plain and simple, right?
Yep.
So then I did Skip the following day, and then the following day after that, I did. I gotta look at my hard drive. I'm getting confused. Oh, I did Jody Moore.
Oh yeah,
Jody Moore, God.
Florida sportsman, right?
Florida sportsman, writer,
yeah.
The new president of the SOB club. Okay, and let me tell you what happened with Jody. Oh my God, was I? So, Jody's got this beautiful big office in the old Landmark Bank building.
Okay.
So you walk in there, everything, the ceilings are 30 feet, everything's marble and glass and blah blah blah, and he's like, yeah, go up to the 10th floor, tell RV, the secretary, that you're here to see me. She'll sit you in the conference room and get you set up and everything. So I'm walking in this thing, and you know me, I got shorts on and a ball cap. Friggin' probably haven't brushed my teeth yet today. But anyway, I go up there. The ladies could be nothing, so pro. I get this huge conference room that I can set up in. And I'm setting up, and I got my little Tread Barta bag over there, and I got all my shit in there. And I'm laughing at myself because I'm thinking after 200-plus podcasts how this just happens naturally, and it's so easy for me, and I'm kind of giggling to myself and patting myself on the back, and I'm putting everything together with the laptop and the mixer and everything. And I look, and there's no headsets and microphones. As I realize there's no headsets or microphone, here comes Jody from the upper floor down to the conference room. And I couldn't do anything. I just laughed. I said, Jody, how much time do we have? He says, well, I'm good till 3:30. I looked at him. I said, sit here for 20 minutes. We can make this happen. I ran home. I got the headsets and microphone. And sure enough, when I got back, Jody was just finishing up a conference call, and we banged out the podcast.
That is awesome.
And then in case it couldn't get any better than that, who texts me right about then, after I finished up with Jody Moore, was John Monahan. John's the kid that runs around town and does all the water testing.
Yeah.
And I've known John ever since he was a student at USF, where he reached out to me. This is before the sewage breaks, when we were bitching and moaning about the water quality. And he sent me this big, long thesis thing that he wrote when he was in school. And he's the kid that we've been wondering, where are these kids? Where are all these kids that graduate with a marine biology degree, and what are they doing with themselves? Well, John Monahan is one of the kids that is actually doing something with it. And is
really?
Yeah, and he's working with John Lewis, and John Lewis is paying him for doing water testing and some other stuff with the Clean Waterways deal. And I was able to get a recording done with him.
Brooks' girlfriend wants to go into marine biology and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, he said something to me the other day about, there's some school in Pensacola. I'm like, no. I said, bring her down here and get her to, get her educated down here in either the University of Miami or Nova Southeastern University, because it's all right here. Whatever it is that you need to study, it's all right here.
Right.
Okay,
and they can meet real people that are actually involved.
Right,
with the
exactly. Yeah. And I got to tell you something. I mean, do you see? We had another sewage spill in Miami.
Dude, we had
Watson Island.
We had one in Watson Island, a really bad one, and we had another one here on the right by Lauderdale by the sea in the Intercoastal, just on North Broward.
Look, that happened. The day that I had a trip. Thankfully, they didn't want to swim that day. And you would have thought that, with the no swim advisory out, you would have thought that the city would have sent the Marine Patrol units out there
to warn people
out.
No, nothing. They try to brush it under the rug. The tide will come and go. It'll be gone in a couple of days. It's not their problem.
It was on Channel 10. Channel 10 covered it.
Louis.
And you would have thought that there would have been some degree of mobilization, but no.
I'm reaching out to Louis. I got to get Louis on the podcast.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Well, I just figured he'd come and go like everybody else, but he's serious.
Yeah.
Louis Aguirre?
Gary.
Gary. I mean, I've never seen, and it always amazed me that the reporters would show up at these catastrophes, these natural catastrophes, and I was like, I always think to myself is like, how can this not bother them enough to motivate them to be more vocal about it? Yeah. And then Louis popped up. Yeah. God love Louis.
Yeah.
I am a big fan.
You know, I got to tell you something. What are we going to do? Because, listen, let's just talk about this because we have to kind of pregame this, kind of start strategizing because it seems like these things always manage to come up only when somebody wants to talk about it rather than when it should come up. And that is that this is 2023. We have another election in 2024. And there are people that need to start thinking right now in 2023 about running in 2024. And they need to start thinking about running on water. It's not too early to think about it. And, you know, with people like Nancy Gassman around, there has to be a change.
There has to be a change.
There has to be a change.
And slowly but surely it's happening. Because... let me move on. So think about this week, okay? Zach Routman. Mm-hmm. Okay, he's got a marine biology degree.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he's a youngster. Mm-hmm. Then John Monahan. Mm-hmm. Okay, he's a youngster and's got the degree and is actually trying to do something about the water. Okay, so I was able to do those podcasts, and then I'm thinking to myself, you know, I really need to get my co-hosts. I got to get Busaka and I got to get Norman here. Yeah. So I'm having my coffee this morning. I'm on my second one, and Busaka left his Captains for Clean Water hat over here. Mm-hmm. So I get a text from him, and I'm like, or he says, "Can I come over and get my hat?" And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm sitting there, and I'm getting through my second coffee, and then we start talking about the Path of the Panther movie that we saw the other night. And then we banged out a podcast, so I got the one done with Busaka, right? And then Captain Norm shows up, and I'm able to bang out 6 podcasts in 1 week. I'm able to get the 2 co-hosts done. Everybody asks, anytime like 2 or 3 weeks go by, they'll say, "Oh, where's Norm?" or "Where's Busaka?" So I was able to get those done. And on a week that I thought I was going to be dedicated to the water and not speak to anybody and not get anything done on the podcast, I got a grand slam over here.
Bam.
Run that dog.
Run that dog.
That's the way to get it done.
But anyway, listen. You got Skip on the podcast. I mean, how are you going to top that?
We're going to top it. I'm not sure how we're going to top it, but we have to top it. That's our job.
Well, you know what it is? I don't know that we need to top it as much as we need to just kind of keep staying. We need to take it to that next level, which is what basically getting Skip was. Okay? So I'm thinking dudes like Mark Croca. Mark Croca. Okay?
Does Croca know... Does Croca even know that he was probably my biggest inspiration?
Croca knows everything.
Does he know that?
Croca knows everything.
That's cool.
Okay, Croca knows best.
No, I'd love to. I would love.
But you know what? We have to go down to the Keys to get Croca. And in order to do that, we need to get in the truck and go, number 1. Number 2, we need to get a couple of guys down there. We need to get Alex.
Alex Adler?
Yes. Yes. We need to get Alex. I'm going to tell you, there's like 4 guys in the Keys that we need to get. We need to get Croca. We need to get Alex Adler. We need to get Bart Sherwood. Okay?
Bartwood should be an easy one.
Yes.
A good one.
Bart would be awesome. Okay? And we need to get Jared Raskop.
I got one to add.
Okay.
I'd love to have Sandy Morat on the podcast.
Ooh. That's a good one.
Sandy's well. He's the type.
I don't know anything about Sandy.
I know.
I know who he is.
Yeah, I know a little bit about Sandy, but what I do know is he's one of those guys. He's like us. He don't mind going in and swinging. If he offends somebody with his opinion and all that, he don't care. Yeah. And then he's a real guy. He's been around forever. I've never actually had the opportunity to meet him, but I always wanted to.
I met him one time in the tackle shop, but I was just another.
Well, Sandy pays attention to this environmental stuff that we get into. And he'd give me a slap on the shoulder every once in a while and was like, "Way to go," that type of thing. Yeah. So I'd love to get him on. Randy Tao would be good.
Oh, yeah, Randy. Jesus, why didn't I think of that?
Especially after the one with Copeland.
Randy, I didn't know this. Randy worked for George Copeland.
Yeah, and Tommy Green.
I didn't know that.
And he was an ADOC dude.
Yeah, now that I knew.
Yeah.
My father had a couple of rods built by Randy.
Randy's old timer. So anyway, all those dudes I'd like to get on. But the way the Real Guy
So many.
The way the Real Guy Network works, I think if we asked any one of those people, they'd probably just be like, "Yeah, sure, I'd love to do it." Or somebody that we know tells them, "Hey, you should really get on the Real Guy podcast," that type of thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's been.
If we get, if we get Alex, we might be able to get Johnny Morris.
That'd be
But we got to get Alex first.
I could see somebody like Johnny Morris wanting to be on the podcast because they're into the fight for the environmental stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing too is, when the podcast audience, the podcast crowd is so different than all the other forms of media right now. Like for instance, I don't know, we have a core of about 15,000 listeners.
Yeah.
I'd rather have those 15,000 listeners than the hundreds of thousands of exposures that we get on Instagram. Like the Instagram, it's not bad, but the percentage of people that actually are a real guy is really low compared to the podcast audience, where I'd rather have that 15,000 than the hundreds of thousands of subscribers on YouTube and the other type of stuff.
Yeah.
YouTube's not too bad, but Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all these little, short form medias, they look at your stuff, but that doesn't mean anything to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Speaking of real guys, where the hell is Kian?
That's a good question.
The freaking boat is sitting here. It's been sitting here under the tarp. Okay? Where's Ed Beers?
That is true.
Where is Ed Beers?
I'm gonna reach out to Kian. I'm starting. No, because it's when I look at Kian's boat out there,
dude.
You know what I think of?
I think of
the
why Norm doesn't have it.
Well, no, you know what I think of? I think of it like the stray dog commercial, where somebody abandoned the poor dog and it's starving to death and it's slow music and everything. So I look at that boat and I'm like, someone's got to run that dog with that thing.
Yeah, man.
What Norm and I are talking.
Where's Kian?
What Norm and I are talking about is a good friend of ours, Kian, wanted my spare maritime skiff. And I have a 18-foot maritime skiff parked behind my 20-foot maritime skiff that I use as a spare. And I agreed to sell it to Kian. And
I think he's in the program.
I'm not sure what's going on with Kian. So anyway, Kian sends me, I'm not going to tell you how much money, but some money every single month as a payment on the boat.
No, he's doing the right thing.
No, I get the payment every single month. I just never hear from Kian.
Yeah. And
the boat, I mean, I'm going to have to
I know.
I'm gonna have to pump up the tires on the trailer because they're gonna go.
You know
flat
what? It's like that. It's like that scene in it's like that scene in 48 Hours where the guy's in jail, but the car's in the car's in.
Right, the car's parked in the lot. It's been in there for 12 years.
12 years. Oh no, we pump up the tires every 6 months.
48 Hours. What a great movie! And then Eddie Murphy singing Roxanne at the beginning.
Roxanne.
Oh, that was just it just set the tone for the whole movie, and it just kept getting better and better and better. They don't make movies like that anymore.
No. We keep talking about movies every once in a while, but we still got to do that. What were we going to do? Animal House or Caddyshack? Caddyshack. We're going to do Caddyshack. We're going to do a Caddyshack play-by-play.
We'll do Caddyshack play-by-play. But you know what Lamont wants to do?
What?
And I was thinking about Brooks and you being musicians.
Yeah.
He wants to do a parody on Nancy Gassman. Where we're making fun of her and we have a little song that we're singing. So I figured between you, Brooks, Bursaman, and Lamont, we should be able to put it together. We'll go to Bursa's Honky Tonk Bar.
Yeah.
And we'll do a little recording.
Yeah.
And we'll have a good night. Maybe we'll bring the podcast stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's
a great idea.
And we'll do that event live.
Absolutely.
We'll go triple live.
Yeah. That's a great call.
I hate to pound my own chest, but if I don't pound it, nobody else will.
I'll pound it, but I'm not hurt you.
We have the longest streak of live internet than anybody in the world. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
We were live 15 years ago this year on Ustream.
Wow.
And we had 180 people with us live on Ustream 15 years ago at what would have been the first LunkerCon.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
By the way, I think Ustream is making something of a comeback. and I think it's kind of under the radar comeback. But somebody told me, and I don't know if this is true, that if you really want to save some money, and like I said, go out there and do your own research and pay your, do your due diligence.
You're not being
on
a
this.
tech advisor.
Yeah, no, I'm not that. But somebody told me that you don't need infinity. You don't need, all these big packages that cost you $200 plus per month. And
For streaming services?
All you need is Ustream, and everything is on there that you would ever want.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Somebody told me that. I don't know if it's true. I'm going to investigate it, and I'll report back.
All right.
Yeah.
Need a little investigative work.
Yeah.
That's real guy stuff there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'll let you know.
Anyway, Norm.
Yo.
It's great to hear about Brooks.
Man, I'm just like I said, I'm a proud papa.
And you should and you should be. And I can't thank you enough for spending an hour here and there to entertain everybody in the Real Guy Network, doing the podcast, being the co-host, and just being yourself, Norm. Thanks a million.
I love it, and run that dog.
Run that dog.